In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a realistic grassy field. So I'm using Blender 2.83 for this. So yeah. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the default cube, and I'm going to add a plane. Shift A, mesh plane, and I'll scale it up to about 4 grid blocks there. Something like that should be good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to modifiers. Okay, and then I'm going to add a subdivision surface. I'm going to set that to 2, make sure that's 2, and then for the viewport, viewport could be 6. Actually, that could be 6 too. And I'm going to keep this on simple. This is very important because I don't want to affect the shape. I just want to have more grid resolution. So after that, I'm going to add a displace modifier. So that's this. And then I'm going to add a new texture. And so to get to the texture menu, I just went down here and clicked this checkboard here. And then I click on new and go to clouds, and just trying to remember what setting I used. So I think I used original and I had this set to soft, and something like this should be good. So I'm going to go back, and then I'm going to turn the strength down. And before I do that though, I'm going to press Control A, apply all transforms. This is important to make sure you apply your scale. And then I'm going to right click and shade smooth. And let's see, that could be, yeah, that should be good right there. So around 0.3, something like that. Mid-level's good. And then what I'm going to do after this is add Shift A, scroll down, and then I'm going to add an empty, and then move it on the Z axis by pressing G and then Z on the keyboard. And then what I'm going to do is just click this, and for the texture coordinates, I'm going to set that to object, and click on the eyedropper icon, and then click on the empty, and scale up the empty until you get a pretty good landscape here. So I'm going to scale that up a little bit more, and you can of course move the empty, and the plane will kind of follow along with it, the landscape features. Let's scale that down just a little bit. Maybe we can bring that strength up to something around there. And I'll scale that up a little more. Scaled up, we can start working on the particles. So we're going to go to the Particles tab, and we're going to click on our landscape here. One thing I would like to do is just make this even a little bit stronger. Something like that is pretty good. And then I'm going to go to the Particle tab, and I'm going to create a new particle system, and I'm going to make it hair. And there's a lot of stuff we got to change here. And one setting we can change right now is the hair length. We're going to bring that down to 0.1. And you could kind of see it's starting to look like grass a little bit, but there's still a lot more to go. So let's set some more settings here. And to do that, I'm going to go and open I'm going to check this checkbox here that says advanced. And I'm going to click on velocity and see if I have to change any of the settings. And this randomize, I'm going to want to change it to 0.025. And I want to set this render here to path, make sure this is path, which it is, and this should be hair. Show emitter, that should be on, otherwise your landscape won't show up in the render. And to increase the resolution of our grass and make it look more high quality, I want to bring up the steps to 6. And let's see what settings we got. So we got viewport display, that could also be 6. And I'm going to go to this is an important setting where it says children here. I'll basically explain this really quick. What children does is it basically interpolates extra grass particles without having to raise the amount of particles, so it's good if your computer's not the best, and that's what I use most of the time. So I'm going to click on interpolated, and I'm going to set this to 50 on the top, and this is actually not creating any additional particles, but it's just creating additional ones based on the number here. So it's interpolating them, and that's why it's not as harsh on your computer. You could always raise this, but it uses more RAM, and that's not always good. So I'm going to set this rendered amount to 175, and I'm going to set the length, make sure that's 1, which is good. And there is still some more stuff to change, so we got to go to this kink menu here, and I'm going to set this to be spiral. And you can see we're getting some very erratic grass here. It's all over the place, so we got to adjust some stuff here. And I'm going to change this amplitude to 0.9, and things are going crazy, so I think that I might have to change this later on. Let's see this randomize and randomize axis. I tend to leave that up most of the time. And keep in mind that when you change these settings, it will depend on your object. So if you scale something differently, you may have to change things again. But I'm going to go to hair shape and just set this strand shape to negative 0.4, and set the diameter root to 5, and then tip to 1. And this is probably going to be really bad settings, because these were just the settings I used on a different project, but the scale's different here, so it may be very out of whack. But let's give it a test render and see what it looks like. Let's go to cycles, and I'm just going to turn on GPU rendering here. Okay, let's let that load. And yeah, we definitely got some stuff to change. Okay, no big deal. Let's go back to our particles, and we are going to change the let's first of all apply all transforms. Okay, so that didn't change anything, but that's okay. So we need to change the hair length way down to like 0.01. And that should give us an improvement to begin with. And one thing you're going to notice is that the speed is kind of very slow. So to fix that, I'm going to change the display amount to 5 for now, just to give us some more speed when we're editing this. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff to fix here. So let's bring down the, I think it's the size. Yeah, the diameter's way too big. The tip could be just 0.01, and already it looks slightly better, but as you can see, it's really chaotic. We have to bring that amplitude way down on the spiral setting, and now we're starting to get a little bit of somewhere, but let's bring that even down further. Let's try 0.01, and now we're getting somewhere, but let's bring the hair length up to 0.05 to make it a little bit longer, and just see how things look. Even longer, maybe 0.08. And yeah, this isn't too bad, so let's bring back our particles just to see what kind of look we're getting now. And yeah, that's not too bad. All you have to do now is just go to the materials button, and you can just create a new material, and just click that, and we're just going to create a very basic grass material, so that would just be green, and we're going to set that to be less rough, since grass can be a little bit have a slight shine to it. I'm going to set it to like 0.2 and maybe make it a little bit darker. Something like that. Yeah. That looks good. And I'm going to go back, and now we just got to make sure that we don't set the grass to the floor material. So I'm going to go back, and the material we could see is here, which is good, but we could just make another material and just press new. That's with the plane selected, and what I'm going to do is just go to edit mode by pressing tab and then assign this new material to the floor, and that will make sure that the floor doesn't change color, and we can bring that down to something more of a brown color, and that will be the dirt color. And yeah, that pretty much concludes the tutorial. Let me bring up one more thing. I'm going to just turn up the display amount to 175, just so you get a good idea of what it will look like in the final render. And I also got courses that I do, paid courses. If you're interested in them, I got them in the description. I do sell 3D models too. Okay, this is almost done, and yeah, that looks excellent. That looks really good. Yeah, so that's how you create realistic grass in Blender. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment. One more thing I wanted to show you is you can change the intensity of to change the intensity of all this like bending in the grass. You can just bring down the amplitude, and that will allow you to make it less chaotic looking if you're going for more of like a golf course grass look. So yeah, I hope this video helps. See you in the next video.